All right, so my name is Stephen Roth and I'm with Carmelsoft. And today I will be demoing the HVAC ResLoad-J iPad app, which is a mobile application that performs ACCA Manual J8 heating and cooling load calculations for residential and small commercial buildings. So what you see on your screen here is actually my MacBook, and I'm running what's called an emulator that allows me to demo this app, and it looks exactly like what you would see on your iPad. So, obviously we have a small crowd today, so at any time, feel free to ask any questions, and just remember to mute yourself when you're done. And ask me the questions so we don't hear back from you. All right, so I'm going to get started. So this, as I said, is the HVAC ResLoad-J app, and it's been out for wow, almost 12 years now, and it is approved by ACCA, and we had to go through a rigorous 6-month process to get it approved. And as a result, the reports produced by this app can be submitted to your city, your municipality, for permits, permits for change outs and installs, etc. All right, so the way this app works is there's two main modes. There's what's called the block load and the room by room mode. And the block load is the one you start out with. And this allows you to basically look at your building as one big block, model it, and get your peak cooling and heating load so you can size your equipment. Then the room by room mode allows you to get more granular and enter information about the individual rooms in that building or in that home. And as a result, you can get the loads for each room and the airflows if you want to size ductwork and diffusers. So a lot of people, because this is a mobile app that you can use out in the field, they will just do a block load because all they want to do is get the peak cooling and heating so they can size that equipment. Like I said, if they want to get more granular, they can do room by room, but it starts out with the block load. All right, so the way this app works is on the left here is your list of projects. Project is basically a home or a building. If you have a really large home, you could actually have a separate project for each system in that home. Like we have a system that feeds, say, the first floor, another system that feeds the second floor. You can have those as two separate projects. But in most cases, people basically have one project per home or small building. And you can actually use this app in landscape mode, which is what we're seeing now, but you can also rotate it and use it in portrait mode. And as you can see, it looks a little different. All the inputs are the same. It's just that the project list is hidden. You just click it and it pops out and it disappears. Just for the sake of this demo, I'm going to rotate it into landscape mode. All right. So as I mentioned, on the left here is a list of all your projects. And in a little bit, I'll talk about why some of the projects are maroon colored, the titles versus black. Now, if you want to add a new project, you click the little plus button here, and up pops a form. Now, the nice thing about this app is you can copy existing projects just by clicking this, and I can select one of the existing projects here, and then create a new name for it, and it will copy all of the information from that existing project. The nice thing about that is, obviously, is you don't have to re-enter all this information over and over again, especially if you're working on homes that are fairly similar, townhouses in a certain neighborhood, etc. So, plus you can create templates that have some basic information that you can copy from, and then obviously you would customize it for that particular home. Now, one thing I want to make sure you understand is this default project. Do not delete it. And I don't know, Matt, in your case, did you delete that default project? Because that may be the cause of the issue. Or did you delete anything within this default project? For example, like under the window, did you delete that default window? Because that may be the cause of this issue of where you are not able to have different areas for each of the windows.
Yeah, that could be the case. I'll have to check that out.
Okay, yeah, I think that may be the case. So what you could do then is do what I just said is instead of let's go back to the project. Instead of creating a new project, like typing in a project name, click save, copy it from an existing project that works. Maybe one of your older projects doesn't have that issue. If so, copy it from that one and it should work for you. The other thing you could do also is just reinstall the app. But the only problem with that is you're going to lose all your current projects if you have a lot of them. So only reinstall the app if you don't mind losing all your current projects.
Well, the good news is I just got started, so I really don't have.
Okay, great. So what I would do is delete the app from your iPad, re-download it. You don't have to pay for it again. You already paid for it, and don't mess with that default project, basically, and hopefully that will resolve that issue. All right, just for the sake of time, I am not going to create a new project. I'm going to work with an existing project. Let's look at the James residence. So as I select each project, all the inputs update on the right here. Okay, and I'm currently doing a block load, and within the block load, I have 4 kind of sub tabs: project tab, envelope tab, window tab, skylight. So the project tab obviously is your main project inputs, including the project name, building name, and I could swipe from right to left to see additional inputs, including all my set points and information about infiltration, ventilation, ductwork. Swipe again, and I can see kind of a quick report breakdown of my cooling and heating load by various components. And this is kind of a common theme in this app, is you can swipe to see additional inputs or outputs. All right, so for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through every single input here. And if you have any specific questions about some of the inputs, just let me know. But I'm going to kind of give an overview. All right, so one of them here, the important one here, is your city. So you see this little caret icon here. You click it, and up pops a weather data form. And this has a weather database of about 1,000 cities throughout the world, including US and Canada and the world here. And then you just select your state and then the closest city to where you're located, and it will automatically fill in ASHRAE or ACCA Manual J8 weather data. And you can actually override this data if you want for a specific project. So if you feel like in Fayetteville, Arkansas, that summer dry bulb looks a little low. I mean, a lot of this data is a decade plus, even 2 decades old. Obviously, temps are getting a lot warmer out there these days, so you may want to increase these temperatures a bit. But if you don't want to, no problem. But it is kind of interesting to see this as you increase your summer dry bulb and wet bulb temps. Obviously your cooling load does increase. So it is kind of interesting to play with those numbers a little bit. All right, so I'll scroll down here, and here is where I start entering information that describes my home. Here I can enter the square footage of my home. And there's, once again, a common theme in this app is there's a couple of different ways to enter information. You can actually, in this case, I'm using my mouse, but obviously for on your iPad, you'll use your finger to kind of, put the cursor inside this text box. And let me pop up the keyboard here, show keyboard. And then I can, enter, say, 2,000 square feet. Click that. Another way to do it is use the slider control. As you see, as I move my slider, it also increases and decreases that value. And the cool thing about using the slider is you can, in real time, kind of see how changing a value affects my total cooling load. All right, the heating, total floor area for heating. Well, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to delete this value. Click done. Now you're going to see that this value just turned maroon, and it became the exact same value as my cooling floor area. Because in most cases, you're going to cool and heat the same area of your home. So in essence, these are actually in sync. Okay, see how they move together? However, if you are heating a different square footage that you're cooling, you can go in here and override this. So let me override this to say 4,000. And you'll see now that it changes from maroon to black. So that's what basically the maroon, any maroon values mean that these are values that are derived from another value. So in this case, when this was maroon, it was derived from my cooling. However, I can always override it, and then it turns black. That means it's not derived anymore. All right. Once again, I'm not going to go through all of them. Oh yeah, let me talk about number of occupants. You can see 5 is maroon. So whenever I enter a number of bedrooms, like if I increase the number of bedrooms, you can see it increases my occupants. So it's basically 1 plus the number of bedrooms. And I can override this if I want. Appliances. So there's 4 options here. Default 1200 BTU per hour. Internal appliances like TVs, washing machines, etc., lighting, computers, TV, whatever. Medium and high, but then you can have custom. Custom is custom. If I click the caret, you can see now I can actually create an entire list of appliances in my home, and it will add to my internal load. And you click the plus button, you're going to see a whole list of different types of appliances in my home. So let me add a dishwasher. You can enter, if you happen to have 2 dishwashers, you can enter 2 here. It will show you sensible and latent load, percentage used per hour, multiply all these together. And this is what the sensible and latent contribution of my dishwasher is to my home. And then you'll see it will appear in this list, click done, and it will now become part of my internal gain in my home. The nice thing about appliances is once you get into your room by room, you can start assigning appliances to different rooms. So if you have a bedroom that has a TV, an office that has a computer and a TV, maybe a living room that has an AV, audio visual, computers, TVs, whatever, lighting, you can kind of parse out the appliances to the different rooms, and it will, add cooling load to those rooms. All right, so let's move on. Let me talk about this here. So as you can see, this is kind of a quick view of your cooling load and a general breakdown of your cooling, windows, envelope, which includes walls, doors, roof, infiltration, internal gains, which is my appliances, and people loads, duct floor, heat gain, ventilation, excursion, which I'll talk about in a bit. Here's your total cooling load and your airflow. I can also look at what my heating load is just by clicking the little heating selector here, and then AED curve. There's nothing here. I can click the calculator icon and it will calculate my AED. So AED stands for adequate excursion diversity. And this is a requirement of the app for ACCA. And basically what it shows me is my cooling load, sensible cooling load, starting from 8 a.m. all the way to 8 p.m. and how it varies. So it's actually kind of cool to see. So in most cases, your load is going to peak, early, mid-afternoon, and then drop off. However, suppose you have, a house that has lots of east-facing windows. Then your load may actually peak in the morning, because obviously your solar load will increase as the sun rises. So it is kind of interesting to see how this load changes. Now, the thing with this AED curve is if the peak of this curve is ever above this yellowish line here, what it's saying is you probably need a VAV system for this home because you don't have enough diversity in terms of how the loads are spread out throughout the home. However, if you're below this yellowish line, then you're fine. You can probably do with a constant volume system. So that's what this tells me. And that's why ACCA required us to put this in here, because they want to make sure that people know when to install a constant volume versus a more variable air volume system to accommodate more diversity, load diversity in a home. All right, let's move on. I'm going to swipe. Now you see a whole new slew of inputs. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll just touch upon the main ones. There's a lot to cover here. You're going to see the same, pie chart as we did before. So here I can do my set point, and once again, I can either manually enter it or move my slider. And what's kind of cool here is as I move my slider and it changes my set point, cooling set point, you can see how it affects my cooling load. For heating, if I click the heating selector here and I change my heating set point, same thing. I can also enter humidity, my supply air temp. That means the temperature of the air coming off the coil. Now, what a lot of people call us and tell us is, you know what, my airflow doesn't look right. It just doesn't seem to match what my cooling load is. Well, you can actually change this airflow value by changing your cooling supply air temperature. And the way it works is if you lower your supply air temperature, it's going to decrease your airflow. So let me show you. So here it's 55. I'm going to change it to 50. And you can see now that my airflow went from about 5,000, 5,500 to 3,300. So this is a great way if you need to submit this report to your municipality and you're not comfortable with that airflow, you can change the supply air temp and it will change your airflow. And it's just the physics of it. Your total cooling load equals your airflow times a factor, usually 1.1 at sea level, times your temperature difference, meaning your set point minus your supply air temp. So if you change one of those values, it's going to change your airflow. All right, let's move down here to construction tightness. Basically, you're going to select, how well built is this home, or how recently was it built? I mean, if it was built in the 60s and it hasn't been, retrofitted since then, it's going to probably be a pretty loose home in terms of, single pane windows, probably some gaps in there. So it's when it's windy out, you feel a draft. Newer homes, you're going to have a tighter construction. Cooling and filtration. I don't want to go, like I said, too much in detail, but there's 3 different methods. The main one you're going to do is a Manual J air change method. And it basically, you select the number of exposures. The construction tightness is derived from the selection you just made, and it will automatically calculate infiltration. In this case, 20 ACF, pretty modest for the size. Same thing for heating. The only difference with heating is it adds in fireplace. All right, let's move down here. Ventilation, you can have it automatically calculate ventilation. Suppose some outside air is coming in through your furnace. But a lot of times people, homes will not have ventilation. So you just click manual and change this to 0, and there will be no ventilation. All right, let's look at the duct. So this kind of can confuse people sometimes. This is by no means a Manual D program. This is a Manual J program. We're working on a Manual D program, but this is not it. However, we do allow you to model your duct system, in a schematic way, very basically. And the reason that we do this is because if you have a really leaky duct system, it can really add a lot to your cooling and heating load. So it's important to model the basics of your duct system, and so it will calculate any heat loss or heat gain. So I'm going to select this. You can do supply and return, and then there's a bunch of parameters for your supply. Okay. And the main thing you want to do is your duct leakage. Is it totally leaky, unsealed, no wrap, no insulation? It's leaking like a sieve. You want to select this. If this is a newer duct system that is really sealed and tested, you want to select this. And obviously, the less duct leakage, the less heat loss and heat gain. And then it will actually calculate the duct surface area based on your floor area. So if I go in here, and I'm going to erase this value, and you see that it basically is assuming around 900 square feet of duct surface area. If this sounds high, you can always override it. Or if you just don't want any type of duct loss, you just enter like a value of 1, and it will be negligible. Okay. In this case, I'm going to enter it. I'm going to show you what happens to your ductwork. 923. Let's go back. And you can see here that my duct heat gain increased pretty dramatically, to almost a ton. It's pretty high. So let me go back here. And I'm going to delete. You can actually have multiple systems. I'm going to delete this one. Just keep things simple. Let's have this. Let's actually go down to say 200. And let's go back. And you can see now that now I'm down to 1,002 per hour. So much more reachable. So you kind of have to play with these numbers a little bit, especially if you have a duct system that is potentially could be leaking a little bit and could add to your heat loss and heat gain. Any questions about this? Matt, do you have any questions? Okay. All right, so let's move on. Oh yeah, down here you kind of get a quick analysis of what your system cooling load component is. System would be ductwork, blower heat gain, stuff like that for both cooling and heating. And you'll see a common theme throughout the app today. All right, so let's move on. I'm going to swipe. And here is a quick breakdown of my cooling and heating load, much more detailed than that pie chart that we just saw. So it kind of gives you a quick overview of what my load is looking like. And this is great, like especially for home, if you want to show the homeowners this, this is what's great about this app is, it's not a clunky laptop, which you can really only use in your office. Use this on an iPad, which is great for demoing for homeowners. Homeowners like to see this. So it's really convenient for showing them, hey, you know what, you need, in this case, a 3.5 or probably a 4-ton, system for your home. All right, so let's move on. Envelope. So envelope is where you enter all of your outdoor walls, roofs, floors, doors, anything where heat is being conducted across. What you don't enter here is your indoor walls. Okay, people get confused by that. People always ask me, well, shouldn't I enter the area of the wall between my living room and my dining room? No, because there's no heat transfer across that wall. You would enter a partition wall, like a wall next to your garage that's not conditioned. But that's the only type of internal wall you would enter. You ignore internal walls. That simplifies things incredibly. All right. So here you can see I already have a bunch of envelopes defined. So and the same thing with the projects, you can actually add new envelopes. You can copy existing envelopes. So it's really great if you have like, a bunch of walls that are similar, but the only difference is the orientation. Suppose you have a brick wall, same R value, same solar value, but faces east instead of west, which is a great way to just copy things over and over again without having to re-enter that data all over again. I mean, the goal here is you want to do a load as fast as you can. And, if you could do a load in less than a half hour on site, that's pretty good. And it beats having to manually, write this data down or maybe enter it into a note app or something, and then going back to your office and manually entering this data into your desktop app. The fact that you can do this on site quickly, that's really the goal of this app. All right, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to be adding any new envelopes. I'm just going to select existing. So let's look at an existing west wall. So description could be anything I want. The panel type, there's, as I mentioned, a lot of different types of envelopes. You have a door, above grade wall. We also have basement walls, a partition wall, ceiling, partition ceiling, and floor. So above grade wall is basically an outdoor wall. Select the orientation, in this case, west. And then the construction. So the nice thing about this app is it includes the entire database of construction types that are in the ACCA Manual J8 handbook. And there's hundreds, if not thousands. And they're categorized. In this case, we have frame wall, block wall, and alternative. And as you scroll through this list, you can look at the detailed description and also the U value, or 1 over the R value, of that wall. I click done, and what it does is it selects that construction type, and it automatically fills in my U value, and also what's called a CLTE group, or cooling load temperature difference group. Most of the time, I would not mess with this, just leave it. It's basically kind of the solar characteristics of that wall. However, if you want to change the U value that was automatically entered here, you can see it's maroon, go ahead and change it. You can override it. Then you can enter the width and height of your wall. All it does is multiply these two values. So if you just want to enter the total area here times 1, go ahead and do that. Just multiplies these two values. Here is just the load of this particular wall for cooling and heating. Select my south wall, same thing. South, same construction, a little different area. East, north. Okay, let's look at floor. So floor loads are usually only used for heating. Okay, there's really no cooling load associated with the floor, since obviously the floor is part of it. So in this case, I select my construction category, and there's 4 of them. They're over enclosed, over open crawl, basement, and slab on grade. When you select it, click done, and depending upon the type of construction, there's going to be different inputs here. It will automatically fill in the U value. But you can see here, it's not asking me for the area of my floor, it's asking me for the length of the exposed edge of my floor, because that's where really that heat loss is going to occur, is on the edge of my floor. So it's asking for just footage, not square footage here. But depending upon the construction that you select, these inputs will change. Let me do an example here. Say over open crawl. Let's see, passive floor. So here you can see the inputs change. Now it's asking me for my area of my floor, basically length times width. Also, it's asking me whether this is a radiant floor, yes or no. You can see it does change my heating load pretty significantly. All right, ceiling. Orientation, if your ceiling is sloped. Construction, once again, you have 3 different categories of ceilings: under attic, roof deck, and roof joists. I'm going to select the ceiling under unbedded attic R11 insulation. Automatically fills in my U value. I enter my ceiling height, length, and width. Once again, it just multiplies these 2 values. Then I can also enter the slope if it's a gable roof, cathedral roofs, cathedral ceiling, whatever. And then, if you have one half of your roof facing, say, northeast, and the other half is facing southeast, southeast, you can divide this in 2 different roofs. It'll be southwest. Is that the opposite? Yeah, southwest. All right, front door. Here you would model a window or door. This would be more like a wooden door. And then you do have a number of construction types, 4 different doors: metal, door actually wood. You can select that here. Auto fills in your U value. Once again, the area of your door, here's your load. And then partition. As I mentioned, partition is an interior wall that would be adjacent to your, say, garage. So the construction numbers are actually the same as the construction numbers for your above grade walls. However, in this case, it asks you for the temperature on the other side of that wall. So does the heat, transfer out and figures out how much heat or cooling is coming across that wall from the garage into your living. Okay, so we've defined all our envelopes. You can see here that my total envelope load is 53,000. Let's go to Windows. So same thing with Windows. You can add new windows. You can copy existing windows. Oh yeah, one thing I haven't shown you yet. Suppose you want to delete something. I can't tell you how many calls we get. How do I delete a window or a wall or a project I have? All you need to do is swipe, and you can see the little delete button. People just do not figure that out. So you can delete. All right, so here are my windows, and for the sake of time, we're at half past now. I'm just going to select or work with existing window. So here I can enter description. Now the thing about the window is you want to attach it to a wall that you defined on your envelope. And the reason you do that is for 2 reasons. One is it subtracts the area of this window from that wall that you define. And 2, it tells the program what direction this window is facing. And obviously that's really important for solar alert purposes. So in this case, it's a west-facing window. I have it attached to my west wall. Construction number, single, double, or triple pane. Auto fills in my U value and solar heating coefficient. You can override these if you want. Window type, default bay garden. the area, suppose you have like 5 windows that are exactly the same area on this west wall. You just enter the area of one of those windows and you enter the area of quantity 5. All it does is multiplies these two values together. So if you just want to enter the total area here times 1, feel free to do that. Now, the thing obviously with windows is shading is really important. If you shade your window, you will have less solar effect, and that dramatically affects your load. So there's different types of shading. There's internal shading, roller shades, drapes, blinds. And you can also specify the percentage of, that these internal shades are covering your window. There's also sunscreen inputs. There's also exterior shading. So here you can enter the height of your window, the overhang length, and distance below the overhang. It does the geometry, and it will calculate how much of your window is being shaded by that overhang. And like I said, it does affect your solar load. And yeah, so it's pretty much the same for all these different things. Then, Matt, in your case, the fact that you were some reason getting the same area for every window, like I said, I would reinstall the app, start from scratch. Because as you can see here, the areas are different. So it does indeed allow you to do this. All right, skylight. So obviously skylight is just kind of a window on your roof, right? So in this case, you can add a new skylight. You can copy an existing skylight if you have multiple ones. Here, you would actually attach it to your roof or ceiling that you defined under your envelope, because it will subtract out that area. Here are a construction list of different types of skylights: single, double, triple pane, curbs construction, and then you enter the area of your skylight times the quantity of skylights, and it does your load. In this case, there's no shading for skylights. It's not required in the ACCA Manual J8 calc, so we don't do it. It's overkill. I swipe here, same report, same kind of quick report breakdown. Okay. All right, so we've defined all of our parameters for our block load. So now let's look at reporting. So you have a number of different options for reporting. Let's look at our system reports. So system reports, this basic information, I can swipe. Here's kind of a check some values, shows me basic kind of nameplate information or key information, but also air changes per hour, solar heat coefficient, CFM per square foot, etc. For cooling, same thing for heating. Here is that detailed breakdown of my cooling load, my heating load. This is a room by room report, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. This is those pie chart reports for cooling and heating. And I can't display it on my emulator just because there's not email in this emulator, but if you click the envelope icon, it will open your email client. It allows you to email these reports as PDFs to anyone you want. You can also airprint. Looks like we have someone new on the call. You're a bit late, so we've kind of covered a lot of it, but if you have any specific questions, let me know.
No, not at the moment.
Okay. If you could mute yourself, that'd be great, just so we don't hear background noise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I am also recording this, just let you know. All right. Okay, so that's the system reports. Room by room reports. Let me show you that after I demo the room by room. Input reports. This is kind of a newer feature of the app in the past year. It actually allows you to display all of the inputs and email them. And you had a lot of requests for that, because a lot of these municipalities want to see what you inputted. So this is a great way to do that. So we now include basically reports that display all of your inputs. And email HTML report, once again, I can't show this because the email functionality does not work inside this emulator, but this basically allows you to email a CSV file of your inputs and outputs, and you can open that in Excel. And the final thing here, this is actually great for support on our part, plus also if you want to email your database. So email database basically will email this entire database to someone else. So if you click this, it will open your email client. It will actually attach the database with all your projects. You can email to someone else. Then if they open that email within their iPad and they have this app, it will then allow them to install this database in their version of the app, so they can actually see the exact same projects in the app. And we use this for support purposes. Most of the time, you probably won't use this, but if you want to have a backup, for example, you can always do this. All right, this little I button I want to explain real quick. So this is kind of a settings or preferences form. Most of the time, I wouldn't touch this. Basically allows you, for example, like some people get really confused. They think, oh, is this where I enter my floor area? No. This is the maximum floor area that is displayed on the slider control here. You can see 10,000. So suppose I'm working with some really big homes or buildings, I can increase this 10,000 to 100,000 in this I button. This is not where you actually enter the floor area of your home. This is only for like maximum values that are displayed on the slider controls. And then down here, you can enter your company information that's displayed on reports. And then this little question mark icon displays help, online help. And I think it should show on this emulator. If it doesn't, it will definitely show under mobile app. Yeah, I don't think it shows on the emulator. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. So yeah, this is online. All right, let's see here. So we're 40 minutes into the demo. Let's do room by room. So as I mentioned, your block load, most of the time, this is all you're going to need to do out in the field. Is you want to get that peak cooling and heating, you want to size that equipment, and that's how you do it. However, if you want to get more granular and you want to look at, individual rooms, the loads for the rooms, but most importantly, the airflows for their rooms, because you want to, be able to say size ductwork if you're doing a retrofit of that home. So this is the room by room. So you can see it has the same subtabs, envelope, window, skylight. Now, the room by room and block load are different in terms of, you're not, if you add up all your room by room loads, you are not going to get the exact same cooling and heating load as your block load. If you do, it's a total coincidence. Because if you think about it, in your room by room, your peak loads are going to occur at different times during the day. So in theory, if you enter all of the rooms that are in that home, and you add up all the cooling and heating loads, they're actually going to be greater than your block load, which is fine because your block load catches one point in time, that peak load that may occur at 1 p.m. But for room by room, you're going to have a bedroom that's east facing that will probably peak in the morning. Then you're going to have a living room that's west facing that will peak in the afternoon. So that's why don't expect your total room by room loads to equal your block loads. They never will. We get this question all the time. They're not supposed to. They do, is a coincidence. All right, so room by room, room list. Same thing as with your block projects. You click add, you can create a new room, you can copy from existing rooms. So if you have a couple bedrooms that are fairly similar, on the same west facing wall, whatever, you can copy those without having to re-enter your data over and over. For the sake of time, I'm not going to add any new ones. I'm going to work with existing ones. Let's look at bedroom one. So bedroom one, if I want to, insert some internal loads into my bedroom, like person, usually gives off like 200 sensible, 230 latent, and you can actually change that if you want. In this preferences form, you can actually change the amount of sensible latent heat a person gives off. And then your appliance load. If you remember when I talked about my appliances down here, I created this whole list of appliances. Well, now I can start parsing out those appliances to my different rooms. So in this case, say my bedroom has one TV. I'm going to enter a value of 1. And what it's going to do now is going to insert about 340 BT per hour in that room. Envelope. So in this case, my bedroom is kind of a corner bedroom, and it's facing a west and south wall. Okay, so let's look at west wall. Once again, I can add new envelopes, copy from existing. So the one relationship between your room by room block load is you can actually select from the constructions that you define in your block load. So let's go back to the block load. Let's go to my envelope. You can see here I have a west wall. Go to my room by room, west wall. I can select west wall here. So I'm selecting that construction that I defined in my block load. But what I'm doing differently here is I'm only entering the area of that west wall that applies to my bedroom. So in this case, 190 square feet. Same thing with south wall. South wall, I'm applying the area that applies just to this bedroom one. And here are my loads for cooling and heating. I can also apply the floor. Same thing. I select that floor that I define in my block load and enter the area of that floor. Ceiling, same thing. Okay. And windows, same thing. You know, add new windows, copy existing windows. I have a west window. I'm going to select the window that I defined in my block load. Here's my west facing window. And I'm going to enter the area of the windows that just are on in my bedroom. Same thing with south window. All right. And in this case, there's no skylight. So that's kind of how I do it for all the rooms. And here's my total load for my bedroom one, 6,000 BT per hour, 122 CFM. Sounds a little high, but you know, in this case, we're just, just making sure that you understand how this works. But, you know, based on this information, now you can start sizing up. Let's look at a kitchen. For the kitchen, I'm going to select my dishwasher. That's my internal appliance. You can see it has 1,300 BT per hour to my sensible load and sensible and latent, actually. Envelope, south and east walls, same thing as what I talked about for the bedroom one. Windows, south. And here I have a couple of different types of windows. So that's why I have two types of south windows, 2 types of east windows. And then let's add a skylight. So I'm going to click add. I'm going to type in skylight. Click save. And I'm going to do skylight type. It's going to come up with that skylight that I defined in my block load. So let's go back here. If you remember skylight here, kitchen skylight. I'm going to apply this to my kitchen here. I'm going to enter, let me enter 10 square feet. Show the keyboard here. There we go. Here's my load, cooling and heating load for that skylight that applies just to that. Another cool thing about the room by room is this AD curve. So you're going to see here how my AD curve changes for each of the rooms. Because what's happening here is these rooms face different, east, west, whatever. And as a result, the peak loads for each of those rooms will differ. For my office, it peaks in the afternoon. For my bedroom, it peaks more in the late morning, early afternoon. So kind of interesting to see this. All right, so I've entered all my room information. I can now, let's talk about the room reports. So you can display reports for each of the rooms. And you can actually select all rooms if you want. You can email these reports, AirPrint them. Same thing as what I did with my system. There's also that report here under my system reports that lists all of the rooms and kind of gives you an overview of cooling, heating load, and airflows. So nice, concise report here. All right. One last thing I want to talk about in the app is we call it the ResLoad-J Cloud. And the nice thing about the ResLoad-J Cloud, it's not required. A lot of people don't use it. Some people do. It'll actually allows you to synchronize your projects to a cloud database, which we host. And then other people within your company can download those same projects. And that's why you see maroon versus black. So maroon are our default projects that come with the app. These are not synced because these are just sample projects. Any black text projects are projects that are synced to the cloud. And people within your company, like I said, can sync and it will download those same projects only if you want them to. You can assign them in our web interface. So it's called the ResLoad-J Cloud. And it does prove to be quite useful in many ways, especially like one example is we're currently working with a client where we're doing the load for them because they want to learn how to do it. So we'll create the load on my version of the iPad. I will log into her account. And then once I'm done, I will sync it. And then she syncs and it downloads the project to her iPad app. So she's able to see the project that I just worked on. So it's pretty cool. So that's one example. All right. So are there any questions? And make sure you unmute to ask a question. Anything specific?
I'm good. No, I just got to kind of work through it. I've been doing Manual J on my computer forever, and I just needed something on my iPad to take on the, when I'm at the kitchen table. So this is perfect.
Great. Yeah. If you have any questions after the fact, just email or call us. 800 numbers on our website, or you can send it a question, and we'll get back to you. But yeah, that's great. That's why we developed this, because we want you to use it out in the field. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. And I chimed in late. I had the time wrong, but
No
as
problem.
far as the application, I'm having to re-download this on a different app, and there's a few different ones that seem to say residential load calculation. Which one specifically should we be downloading on the iPad?
Are you saying you do have this app or you don't have it?
I have it. So I was actually downloading it again the other day because I have a new iPad. I don't use it that often as far as the app, but it had like 3 different ones to download.
Right.
I'm not sure which one it is. But I paid for it already years ago. I've emailed you guys a few times just about how to use it, but when I just tried to download it again on this new device I have, I didn't know which one to pick. Because 3 of them say the same thing. One says like $199, one for $49, and one for $34.99.
Right. Yeah. So the most expensive one is this one you're looking at on your screen, and this is this is approved by ACCA. So if you need reports that are approved by ACCA and that you submit to your municipality, and they say, we only want reports from an app that's approved by ACCA, then you need this app. If you're just doing loads where, you just want to get the peak cooling heating load, it's still based on the ACCA Manual J8, but it's not approved by ACCA. So, the inputs are different, a little simpler. You can do the less expensive one, I think it's $49 or something like that.
No, we want the approved one. So the one for $199, that's the one that does.
Yeah, the $199 is the one
accurate.
exactly. That's the one that is approved.
Got you. Okay.
So that's the one you want.
Yeah. Would there be a recording for this that I could actually?
Yeah, I'm actually recording it right now. After we're done, I'll be posting it within the next couple of days.
Okay, wonderful. That's all.
So yeah, come back to our website. If you go to the website, go to the part where it says ResLoad-J, and you'll see a button that says videos, and it will be there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to show you, which is really interesting. I mentioned that we're doing load calcs for other people, especially people may not know how to do load calcs yet, and so one interesting thing we're doing here, and I just wanted to include this in this training webinar, is this one client is actually using a tool called EagleView. It's actually really cool. And what this company does is they have a drone that will fly around the home and map it out just like this. It will map it out both in plan view, elevation view, and ISO view. And it will basically take pictures around the whole house, map it out, and determine all the areas of the different portions of the roof and your walls and your windows. And all exterior, obviously, no interior. And then it will create a report, and then we receive that report. And based on that report, we can approximate a lot of the areas of the different walls, windows, skylights, and roofs, and etc. So it's a great way to kind of automate the load calc without having to manually measure things or eyeball things. So anyway, we're doing this for one client. I thought it was really interesting using a technology from what's called EagleView in conjunction with our app. So just want to kind of make you aware of that. I don't know if this is available in all cities. The client we're working with is in Houston. It may be available in other major cities, but it is an interesting idea and a way to do HVAC load calcs for residential facilities, in kind of a quicker, easier way. So just want to make you all aware. All right, before I end, any final questions?
Out of here. Good.
Okay, well, thanks for attending. I'm gonna actually stop recording right now.